Rod Fleming in the Philippines here, and I hope you're all well. So I'm going to do something a little different today. We're going to talk about feminism. Why are we talking about feminism? The reason is that I've had a few raids recently by feminists. I mean, it's always been ongoing on my channel on YouTube and on my site. They come by and they drop their little hate bombs and lies, and you know, usually I just sort of ignore them or ban them, whichever is more appropriate. They've been making a claim which I think needs to be addressed, and that claim is that feminism is all about equality. It's an absolute, blatant, barefaced lie. Feminism is not about equality. Feminism is about emplacing a Marxist, collectivist dictatorship in which only women who accept feminism and men who are signed up feminists themselves, as per the Communist Party, would have a voice. It's like the old Soviet Union. You know, you did, if you weren't a member of the Communist Party, that was it. You had no voice, you had no vote. You didn't exist. And that's what they intend to do. They intend to put in place a communist dictatorship in which they will be the ones who decide what happens. And we know what happens when communist dictators get in power, when these systems are put in place. We saw it in Russia. We saw it in China. We saw it in Cambodia. Some sources believe that 200 million people were killed, systematically destroyed, genocide by these regimes. And that is what feminists want again. That's what they want. And I'm going to read some quotes, and you will see that I'm telling the truth. They'll accuse me of cherry picking. It doesn't matter. This is what they think. The nuclear family must be destroyed. Whatever its ultimate meaning, the breakup of families now is an objective, revolutionary process. And that was a person called Linda Gordon. So there you have it. They want to destroy the family. People talk about BLM and various other extremist organizations, and they argue that they have tried to suggest we should get rid of the nuclear family. Feminists have been saying this for decades, over 100 years. That's what they've wanted, to destroy the family. It's Marxist ideology lifted straight from Engels, from the Communist Manifesto, and it was practiced in such nirvanas as Soviet Russia and the People's Republic of China. And we know what happened there. You know, it's been tried. We did it. It cost 200 million deaths, at least. And another one from the utterly charming Andrea Dworkin. I want to see a man beaten to a bloody pulp with a high heel shoved in his mouth, like an apple in the mouth of a pig. Now, that might be par for the course for this intensely bitter, unpleasant person. But do you actually think that has anything to do with equality? Do you? I can't see it myself. Maybe I'm missing something. Since marriage constitutes slavery for women, it is clear that the women's movement must concentrate on attacking this institution. Freedom for women cannot be won without the abolition of marriage. And this is a woman called Sheila Cronin, the leader of the feminist organization Now. This is lifted straight from the Communist Manifesto. That's what it is. It's just communism. And you will see that they actually confirm this. Another point I'd like to make there is that women invented marriage. Men didn't. Women did it. Women invented the idea of men being tied to a single woman so they could have help to raise children. Men didn't do that. If men were left to themselves, they would just have gone on having sex with as many women as they possibly could. And what on earth would stop them doing that? What happened was that women restricted their access to sex and said that they could only have it when it was approved, socially approved, for sex with one woman. Monogamous marriage. Monogamous marriage was invented by women, not by men. Prove me wrong. And then, Mr. Dworkin again, marriage as an institution developed from rape as a practice. So sex becomes rape and marriage is just legalized rape. It's sickening. It's just sickening. Then from that wonderful person, that delight, Germaine Greer, there are practically no good reasons left for exercising one's fertility. You know, it's very easy for a lesbian to say that, isn't it? It really is. The institution of intercourse is anti-feminist. A person called T. Grace Anderson. So just having sex is anti-feminist. It's practically unbelievable. And these people, most of these people are respected academics. They have careers. They get paid, many of them in the public purse. How is this possible? Then we'll move on to rape, because they've always got something to say about rape. Rape is nothing more or less than a conscious process of intimidation by which all men keep all women in a state of fear. And this is Susan Brown Miller from Against Our Will. Apparently this is a book. Now the thing is, rape is extremely rare. It's a very rare occurrence. And although feminists have been trying very hard to suggest that it's much higher in prevalence than it actually is, by saying, well, you know, people don't report rapes and they're not dab. The fact is, this is a lie. It's just a lie. There's no evidence for these statistics. Rape is a rare occurrence. One rape is too many. There's no doubt about that. But to suggest that all men are raping women all the time is completely offensive and absurd. Here's a real belter from one of the most repulsive feminists on the planet, Sheila Jeffreys, which says that when a woman reaches orgasm with a man, she is only collaborating with the patriarchal system, eroticizing her own oppression. Really, how sick do you have to be to imagine that simple pleasure of sex has these meanings? It's ludicrous. And yet this is a respected academic. These are the people who are teaching your kids. Seriously. Let's have a film star now. Sharon Stone. You all remember Sharon Stone, yeah? That sex symbol. And she says, the more famous and powerful I get, the more power I have to hurt men. You're never going to look at that woman again the same way, are you? You're never going to sneak that peek through between her legs like they did in that film. What was it? Fatal Attraction? Are you? Was it Fatal Attraction? I can't remember. Are you? Yeah, sure, there's a pussy in there, but it's a pussy with teeth. And nowadays, a dried up one. And then we can have another actress. They're really good, these Hollywood types, I tell you. We got 95% of women's experiences are about being a victim, or about being an underdog, or having to survive. Women didn't go to Vietnam and blow things up. They're not Rambo. Guess who that was? That was Jodie Foster, who's made a multi-million-dollar career out of playing a professional victim. Remarkable, isn't it, that someone so privileged can make these claims? And there is another point here. The men, the young boys mainly, who went to Vietnam, didn't go because they wanted to go to Vietnam. They were drafted. That was a draft war. So this unbelievable tart is pissing all over the graves of all those poor boys who died, 53,000 I believe, in that war, which was none of their fault. They didn't want to be there. And she feels, because she's a woman and a victim, that she has the right to piss on their graves. That's despicable. That's the word for that. Despicable. The proportion of men, right, must be reduced to and maintained at approximately 10% of the human race. And this is Sally MillerGerhardt, in a book called Rape, the All-American Crime. So how are you going to do that, Sally? Hey? Zyklon B? That's how you're going to do it? That's your plan? That's what you guys usually do. Or, just put them against the wall and shoot them, starve them to death. That's what you plan? Apparently so. And then, if life is to survive on this planet, there must be a decontamination of the earth. I think this will be accompanied by an evolutionary process which will result in a drastic reduction of the populations of males. This person called Mary Daly. Now what she means here is that men are a poison. Men are by nature toxic. Men just have to be got rid of. Same thing. This is all the same thing. Now we'll have a guy. The first class oppression that appears in history coincides with the development of the antagonism between man and woman in monogamous marriage. And the first class oppression coincides with that of the female sex by the male. Now note, Engels doesn't say that women are a class. He says that class oppression as a whole coincides with this imaginary oppression of women. And that's Friedrich Engels, right, in his book, The Origins of Family. So, you know, what you've got here, this is where the poison's coming from. The feminist poison comes straight from people like Marx and Engels. You know, what we spent all of our lives, if you're my age anyway, fighting against, the communist monster, that is what feminism is. It's, you know, it's just communism with a pussy hat on. Another man, a nice one this time. If anyone is prosecuted for filing a false report of rape, then victims of real attacks will be less likely to report them. And this is a guy called David Angier, and he was a district attorney when he said it. So he's in charge of prosecutions. There's no chance of any man falsely accused of rape having his life ruined, his marriage ruined, probably losing his job, and perhaps even ending up out in the street because of the false claim of a vicious, nasty woman getting retribution under an idiot like this, is there? And then again, men who are unjustly accused of rape can sometimes gain from the experience. And this is from a woman called Catherine Commons. Gain? What are you going to gain? You're going to gain losing your home, losing your family, losing your career, losing all your money, ending up out in the street. This is a gain, this is a positive benefit, because some entitled harlot decided to accuse you of something you didn't do. How is this just? How is this about equality? How is this about egalitarianism? It isn't. This is about suppressing men, about oppressing men, in fact. Wait for this. A man can beat or kill the woman he claims to love, he can rape women, he can sexually molest his daughters, and the vast majority of men in the world do one or more of the others. This is a vile person called Mallory in French. I don't know anybody who does that. And I know a lot of guys. The fact is, these crimes are crimes, they're illegal, you can't do them. To suggest that men are running around doing this is ludicrous. It's a blatant lie. And yet that is what feminism is. It's a blatant lie. And then this is from a person called T. Grace Anderson, another airhead. Feminism is a theory, lesbianism is the practice. And here you have it. This is what is actually happening. Marxist-Leninism is the core theory of feminism, and most feminists are lesbians. That's basically what you're talking about here. They're man-haters because they hate men. Lesbians hate men, or this class of lesbian hates man. And most lesbians don't actually, but this lot do. I believe that women have a capacity for understanding and compassion which men structurally do not have. He does not have it because he cannot have it. He's just incapable of it. This is Barbara Jordan again, a former crosswoman. So I'll tell you something. If I were to say that women don't have the structural capability for decision making and political leadership, how far do you think I'd get? That they didn't have the structural capability for running large corporations, how far do you think I'd get? And yet, people like these get away with saying these things because they're feminists, because they're using female privilege, something that they don't accept exists, but manifestly does. Probably the only place where a man can feel really secure is in a maximum security prison, except for the imminent threat of release. Now, that's from Germaine Greer, who's basically insane anyway. What do you mean? What does that mean, even? Well, what it means is that all men are criminals, in her view, which is just ridiculous. In order to raise children with equality, we must take them away from families and communally raise them. And this is a person called Dr. Mary Jo Blay. And what she means is she wants the state to come into your home, take your children away and raise them away from you so that you cannot have contact with them. They will never know they're your parents. That is what feminism stands for. The state taking these decisions on your behalf, the state taking away your children because they want to teach them things that you don't want them to know. And then another beaut by a truly poisonous person. No woman should be authorized, that is allowed, to stay at home and raise her children. Society should be totally different. Women should not have that choice, precisely because if there is such a choice, that's what most of them will do. So this is Simone de Beauvoir, who is a vile person. And she wants here to say that the collective has to decide on the behalf of the individual. It's unacceptable for women to make decisions on their own. They have to do what the gynocratic collective tells them. That's what feminism is. Beaut from somebody called Trina Shapiro, whoever she is. I do want to be able to explain to a 9-year-old boy in terms he will understand why I think it's okay for girls to wear shirts that revel in their superiority over boys. And if I were to tell my sons that they could run around in t-shirts saying that all women are whores, how far do you think I'd get? How far before I had police knocking at my door? Double standard. Female privilege. Feminism, socialism, and communism are one and the same. And socialist communist government is the goal of feminism. And that's Catherine A. McKinnon. And she's right. For once, a feminist has been honest. She's told us the truth. What they want is a communist state. They want to get rid of everything to do with freedom, with democracy, and with capitalism, and replace it with a gynocratic collective in which, as I say, only those women who accept feminism and men who have joined up for the party get to have a say. That's what they want. That's what feminism is. These people, the word evil is too mild for them, to be honest. And we're nearly finished, you'll be glad to know, but this poison is everywhere. It's everywhere in all feminist writings. They're absolutely full of it. You know, and reading feminist writing is extremely depressing because these people are so twisted, they're so mentally corrupt, they're so evil, and yet they are allowed to press this evil onto young minds around them. Absolutely appalling. A world where men and women would be equal is easy to visualize. For that is precisely what the Soviet Union, the Soviet Revolution promised. It's the same thing. They want you to go back to Soviet Russia, Soviet Union, USSR, China, Cultural Revolution, Cambodia, killing fields. That's what they want. It's stated as the end point, the end game of feminism, is to establish a communist dictatorship run by women. Boy, what could possibly go wrong? A little funny one, which I've actually seen, but I don't have a picture of it, is a little graffito, which is quite common, and it says, "Women have their faults, men only have two. Everything they say and everything they do." And I'll accept, men are not perfect. But to suggest that women are, and that they have the answers to all the problems, and that these answers can be applied through force by the use of communist techniques, and we know what those are. We know what they are. It's the bullet in the back of the head in the long corridor. It's the firing squad. It's the mass graves. It's the gulags. It's the killing fields. It's all of that. That is what they propose. That's what they want. That's what feminism is. Finish there, and I'm going to say thank you very much to two sources in particular, although I used more. One was 23 quotes from feminists that might change the way you think about feminism by a guy called Jake Ellis. I'll put up the URL for that. And the other was from an excellent UK blog site called Women Against Feminism UK, which I will again put the URL up for. It has some excellent articles on it. It's well worth a visit. It's a bit thin. It doesn't look like it's getting a lot of maintenance at the moment, but that is a good site. It has some good information. Anyway, that was what I want to say. I've been thinking about this for a long time, and you know, it's time. It's really time that we all just stopped believing the lies and accepted that feminism is the nasty, nasty thing that it is. It really is a vicious, horrible, sociophagic contagion that does immense damage, and its ultimate end is to destroy our society. Thanks for watching. See you next time.